So Microsoft just announced a huge new version of Bing. It's powered by a bunch of OpenAI technology. A couple weeks ago, the company made what was called a multi-billion-dollar, multi-year investment in OpenAI. Tell us what's going on.
Well, today's announcement is all about rethinking the largest software category there is, search, with this new generation of AI, because it's a platform shift and you get to sort of reimagine pretty much everything, right? Starting with the core ranking. In fact, perhaps the most salient part of today's announcement is we've had the best gain in relevance in the core ranking using some of these large models. Second is, it's not just a search engine, it's an answer engine, because we've always had answers, but with these large models, the fidelity of the answers just gets so much better. And then we've incorporated chat right into search, which is grounded in search data. So you can do a natural language prompt, which is or a query, which is long, you get a great answer, and then you can engage in a conversation with that as the grounding or the context. So it's about basically essentially bringing, in fact, a more sophisticated model, larger model, next generation model compared to ChatGPT, and grounding it in search data. The other last thing we also added was a co-pilot for the web, so that you in Edge can be looking at any website or any document on a website, like a 10Q, for example, and then do things like summarization. So a whole lot of these features all coming together essentially as the new Bing. Got it. This is about, look, at the end of the day, search is about fair use. Ultimately, all this content we only get to use inside of a search engine if you're generating traffic for the people who create it. And so that's why if you look at whether it's in the answer, whether it's in chat, these are just a different way to represent the 10 blue links, more in the context of what the user wants. So the core measure, even what SEO looks like, if anything, that'll be the thing in the next multiple years. We'll all learn. Perhaps there will be new incentives in SEO to even generate more authoritative content that then gets in. So overall, everything you saw there had annotations, everything was linkable, and that'll be the goal, whether it's inside a search, whether it's in the answer, or even in the chat session.
But if I ask the new Bing, what are the 10 best gaming TVs, and it just makes me a list, why should I, the user, then click on the link to The Verge, which has another list of the 10 best gaming TVs?
Well, that's a great question. But even there, you will sort of say, hey, where did these things come from? And would you want to go dig in? Like that, even search today has that. Like we have answers. They may not be as high quality answers. They just are getting better. So I don't think of this as a complete departure from what is expected of a search engine today, which is supposed to really respond to your query, while giving them the links that they can then click on, like ads, and search works that way.
The reason I ask this is, obviously, when you say you're taking on the largest software category in the world, it's search. There's a dominant player in Google. If Google stops sending as much traffic from its search engine results page to publishers, to creators, to other websites, regulators around the world would freak out because they have a dominant market share. Bing does not have a dominant market share. When you evaluate the risks, both IP risks, legal risks, regulatory risks, you say, well, look, we don't have the share. We can take a step forward in how we present these results in a way that our competitor cannot.
That's not how I come at it.
I'm just curious.
I come at it primarily on basic. Today, if you look at the search category, it's great. It works 50% of the time. It doesn't work for the other 50% of the time. So I think what really I want to do is to go back and say, look, is there some new powerful technology that can make a search a better product without fundamentally changing how search gets permission to even exist as a product, which is other people's content organized in useful ways so that users can find them. To me, that is the category. And so we will live and die by our ability to help publishers get their content to be seen by more people. Up to now, like all things, one of the things that I think about is Indian platform shifts. The two things have to happen. You have to retool pretty much every product of yours, right? So you got to rethink it, whether it's on the way you build it, what its core features are. It's kind of like how Microsoft had to pivot for the cloud, right? Which is you had to rethink Exchange. It was not an Exchange server. It was Exchange as a service. Or what we had to do with our server infrastructure. We had to rebuild essentially a new core stack in Azure. So every time with transitions, you have to essentially rewrite it. That's kind of how I think about it. The second thing is you also have to think about the business model. Sometimes these transitions are pretty harsh. I'll tell you, the last transition from having, the high share server business with great gross margins and saying, hey, the new business is called cloud and it's going to have 1/4 the margins is like the new news, was pretty harsh. So we made it. Whereas in here, I look at this, there are two things. One is it's absolutely new tech, but it builds on cloud, right? So that's one place where we already have relevance. And so there is the next generation of cloud. And second, in search, the economics are interesting, which is we already have a profitable business, but with very little share. And so every day, I just want a few users and a little bit more gross margin.